Bradenton police say a man faces first-degree murder charges tonight for killing his ex-girlfriend and wounding one of her co-workers at a medical processing lab. Spectrum Bay News 9 reporter Sarah Blazonis joins us with details now. And Sarah, what are we learning tonight?
Rick, Bradenton police say they've arrested 29-year-old Keith Roberts Jr. They say he fatally shot his ex-girlfriend, 29-year-old Michaela Burnham, then turned the gun on another office employee who witnessed the crime. It all happened on 4th Avenue Circle East in Bradenton, just off of State Road 64. Police say the call came in before 1 p.m. A number of witnesses were able to identify a vehicle involved.
He took our light. He took our vibrancy. And for me, he took everything.
It's 12:48 p.m. on January 16th, 2026. A man walks through an unlocked door at a medical office in Bradenton, Florida. He doesn't hesitate. He doesn't ask questions. He moves straight past the front desk, like he knows exactly where he's going. His name is Keith Roberts Jr. He's 29 years old, and he's a security guard at a nearby hospital. A man trained to protect people, to keep them safe. But today, he's not here to protect anyone. He walks directly to a desk where a 29-year-old nurse named Michaela Burnham is working. She's sitting right there, just a few feet away. Her co-worker is at the desk right next to her. Keith pulls out a shotgun. He aims it at Michaela's head. Point-blank range. So close she can probably see his finger on the trigger. And then he fires. But here's what nobody saw coming. What turned a security guard into a killer, willing to execute his ex-girlfriend in front of witnesses in the middle of the day? I know, that's a lot to take in right from the start. But cases like this one shake me to my core because they show us that violence can happen anywhere, even in places where we're supposed to feel safe. If stories like this hit you the same way they hit me, go ahead and hit that like button and subscribe. We cover the cases that matter, the ones that could happen to anyone, anywhere, and drop a comment below. Let me know what state or country you're watching from. Have you ever worried about safety at your workplace? I want to hear from you. Before we go any further, let's talk about who Michaela Burnham really was, because she wasn't just a victim in a news story. She was a real person with a real life. Michaela, her friends called her Shayla, was 29 years old. She worked as a nurse at a medical processing lab in Bradenton, Florida. Her office was located in the 5200 block of 4th Avenue Circle East, right off State Road 64. It was a quiet area, the kind of place where nothing bad was supposed to happen. Every day, Michaela would come to work, sit at her desk, and do her job helping people. She was dedicated to healthcare. She cared about making a difference. But more than anything, Michaela was a mother. She had a young son who meant everything to her. She was building a life for him, working hard to give him a good future. Her family described her as a bright light in every life she touched. Her father, Jamie Burnham, and her grandparents, Linda and Kevin Goda, all loved her deeply. Michaela wasn't someone who lived a dangerous life. She wasn't involved in anything risky. She was just a regular woman going to work every day, sitting at her desk in that medical lab, doing her job alongside her co-workers. From the outside, everything looked normal. Everything looked fine. But there was something Michaela was dealing with, something that most people at her workplace probably didn't even know about. Just 1 month earlier, she had ended a long-term relationship with her boyfriend, Keith Roberts Jr. And Keith didn't take the breakup well. Not well at all. In fact, he couldn't let go. And that inability to move on would soon cost Michaela everything. So who was Keith Roberts Jr.? Like Michaela, he was 29 years old. And here's where things get really twisted. He also worked in healthcare. Keith was a security guard at Manatee Memorial Hospital, just a short distance from where Michaela worked. Think about that for a second. His job was to protect people, to keep patients and staff safe. to stop dangerous situations before they happened. But when it came to his own life, Keith was about to become the danger. Keith and Michaela had been in a long-term relationship. They'd been together for a while, building what looked like a normal couple's life. But about 1 month before the shooting, Michaela made a decision. She ended the relationship. We don't know all the details about why they broke up, but what we do know is how Keith reacted. According to Bradenton Police Chief Jason Kramer, Keith didn't take it very well. Now, when most people hear that phrase, didn't take it well, they might think of someone being sad, maybe angry, maybe sending too many text messages. But in cases like this, didn't take it well can mean something far more dangerous. The time right after a breakup is actually one of the most dangerous periods for women leaving relationships. When someone refuses to accept that it's over, when they can't let go, that's when things can turn deadly. In fact, more than half of all workplace killings of women are committed by current or former intimate partners. And here's what made Keith especially dangerous. He knew everything about Michaela's life. He knew where she worked. He knew what time she got there. He knew exactly which desk was hers in that medical lab. What makes this case even more disturbing is that there were no reports of prior violence between them. No police calls, no restraining orders, nothing that would have raised a red flag to anyone watching from the outside. For 30 days after the breakup, Michaela went to work every day. She cared for her son. She tried to move forward with her life. She had no idea that Keith was planning something unthinkable. January 16th, 2026 started like any other Thursday at the medical lab. Michaela came to work, sat down at her desk, and began her day. Her coworker, 26-year-old Summer Freitag, was sitting at the desk right next to hers. It was just before 1 p.m., the lunch hour, a normal, quiet afternoon. Then, at exactly 12:48 p.m., Keith Roberts Jr. walked through the front door of the office suite. The door was unlocked, like it usually was during business hours, so patients and visitors could come in. Keith didn't have to break in. He didn't have to force his way past anyone. He just walked right in, and he knew exactly where he was going. He didn't stop at the reception area. He didn't look around. He moved straight through the office, heading directly to Michaela's desk. No hesitation. No second thoughts. Police Chief Jason Kramer later described what happened next. He said Keith got so close to Michaela that they were standing closer than you and I are likely right now. Point-blank range. Keith was carrying a shotgun. Michaela was sitting at her desk. She probably looked up and saw him standing there. Maybe she didn't even have time to react before he pulled the trigger. The shotgun blast was deafening. In an instant, Michaela Burnham was gone. But Keith wasn't done. Summer Freitag, the nurse sitting at the desk right next to Michaela's, saw everything. She watched her coworker get shot right in front of her, and because she was so close, fragments from the shotgun blast hit her too. Then Keith turned the gun on Summer. He fired again. And again. Summer was hit 4 times. Both of her arms, her right leg, her chest. One of the bullets went into her left lung. She was bleeding badly, in shock, fighting to stay alive. People in the building and neighbors nearby heard the gunshots. Multiple people grabbed their phones and called 911. They reported hearing loud blasts. They saw a vehicle speeding away from the scene. Those witnesses became heroes that day. They gave police a description of Keith's car. They told them which direction he was heading. Within minutes, officers were searching for the vehicle. They got word that it was heading toward the DeSoto Bridge, which connects Bradenton to the nearby town of Palmetto. Police spotted the car crossing the bridge. 22 minutes after the shooting, less than half an hour, they pulled Keith Roberts over and took him into custody in Palmetto. He didn't run. He didn't resist. He agreed to talk to detectives from the Manatee Homicide Investigation Unit. By 6 p.m. that same evening, Keith Roberts Jr. was officially arrested. He was charged with first-degree murder with a firearm for killing Michaela. He was also charged with attempted first-degree murder with a firearm for shooting Summer. Back at the medical lab, first responders were working desperately to save Summer's life. They had to put 3 tourniquets on her, 1 on each arm and 1 on her leg, to stop the bleeding. She was rushed to the hospital and taken into emergency surgery. Chief Kramer didn't hold back when talking about the case. He called Keith's actions cruel and evil. He said this wasn't a crime of passion or a moment of anger. This was planned. Keith walked into that office knowing exactly what he was going to do. In less than 25 minutes, Keith Roberts went from cold-blooded killer to captured suspect. But the damage was done. Michaela was gone. Summer was fighting for her life. And somewhere in Bradenton, a little boy had just lost his mother. I know this is heavy. Cases like this remind us how quickly violence can destroy ordinary lives. One moment, you're at work doing your job. The next, everything changes forever. If you're still with me, I appreciate you. Hit that subscribe button if you haven't already. We're building a community that doesn't look away from hard truths. Here's what I want to know. Do you think workplaces do enough to protect employees from domestic violence? Should there have been more security at that medical lab? Drop your thoughts in the comments. I read every single one. Now, let's talk about Summer Freitag, the survivor who witnessed everything. When we talk about this case, it's easy to focus only on Michaela. But there's another victim here, Summer Freitag. Summer was 26 years old. She was a nurse, just like Michaela. She was sitting at the desk right next to her coworker when Keith walked in that day. Summer didn't do anything wrong. She wasn't involved in Keith and Michaela's relationship. She was just at work, doing her job. But she saw everything. She watched Keith shoot Michaela right in front of her, and then he turned the gun on her. Summer was shot 4 times, both arms, her right leg, her chest with 1 bullet going into her left lung. First responders had to use 3 tourniquets to stop the bleeding and keep her alive long enough to get to the hospital. 2 days later, on January 18th, Summer went into surgery. Doctors worked to repair the damage to her arms and leg. She survived. She's in stable condition now. But here's the thing. Summer's life will never be the same. She has physical scars from the bullets. She'll need time to heal, maybe more surgeries down the road. But the emotional scars? Those might never fully heal. Summer has to live with what she saw that day. She watched her coworker die. She felt the terror of being shot herself, not knowing if she would survive. And here's something that makes it even harder. Summer's sister also worked at that same medical lab. She just happened to be off work that day. If the schedule had been different, she might have been sitting at that desk too. Summer survived, but she'll carry the scars, both visible and invisible, for the rest of her life. She's a living reminder that domestic violence doesn't just claim one victim. After his arrest, Keith Roberts Jr. was taken to Manatee County Jail. He's being held without bond, which means he's not getting out before his trial. When Keith appeared in court for the first time, witnesses said he showed almost no emotion, no tears, no remorse, nothing. His pretrial detention hearing was scheduled for January 23rd, 2026. He's facing serious charges: first-degree murder with a firearm and attempted first-degree murder with a firearm. Police Chief Jason Kramer didn't mince words when talking about the case. He called Keith's actions cruel and evil. He made it clear that this wasn't a sudden act of rage. Keith planned this. He knew what he was doing. The investigation is still ongoing, but the facts are already clear. Meanwhile, Michaela's family is trying to cope with an unimaginable loss. Her sister set up a GoFundMe page to help support Michaela's young son. The money will go toward his future, the future his mother won't be there to see. The community has been shaken by what happened. People in that quiet Bradenton neighborhood never expected something like this. And that unlocked door? It's become a symbol of how vulnerable we all are, even in places where we should feel safe. The witnesses who called 911 and helped police track down Keith have been called heroes. Their quick thinking helped catch him before he could get away. As Keith Roberts sits in jail awaiting trial, one question haunts everyone who knew Mishaela. Could this have been prevented? So what can we learn from Mishaela's story? How do we stop this from happening to someone else? First, we need to talk about the warning signs. When a relationship ends, especially a long-term one, pay attention to how the other person reacts. Are they calling or texting constantly? Showing up at your home or workplace without being invited? Making threats, even ones that seem like jokes? Following you or keeping track of where you go? These aren't just signs of someone who's heartbroken. These are red flags that someone might be dangerous. The time right after a breakup is actually the most dangerous period. More than half of all workplace killings of women are done by current or former partners. That's a huge number. And it shows us that leaving a relationship doesn't always mean the danger is over. Now let's talk about workplace safety. That unlocked door at Mishaela's office? That was a problem. I'm not saying every office needs to be locked down like a fortress, but there are simple things workplaces can do to protect their employees. Badge access systems mean only employees can get in. Visitor logs track who's coming and going. Security cameras can catch things before they happen or help solve crimes after. If an employee tells their boss they're dealing with a dangerous ex, the workplace should have a plan. Maybe that person needs to park in a different spot. Maybe their schedule needs to change temporarily. Maybe reception needs to know not to let certain people in. Panic buttons at desks can alert security fast. And having clear emergency procedures means everyone knows what to do if something goes wrong. If you're in a situation where you feel unsafe, get a restraining order. Yes, it's just a piece of paper. It won't physically stop someone. But it creates a legal record. It gives police the power to arrest someone for violating it. And it shows you're taking the threat seriously. You can also call the National Domestic Violence Hotline at 1-800-799-7233. They're available 24/7 to help you make a safety plan and connect you with resources. Here's something that really gets me about this case. Keith was a security guard. His whole job was keeping people safe. And yet he became the threat. It shows that danger can come from anywhere, even from people we think we can trust. We need bigger changes too. Laws that hold workplaces responsible when they ignore safety concerns. Red flag laws that can temporarily remove guns from people who are showing dangerous behavior. Better training for everyone on how to spot the warning signs. Knowledge is power. Awareness saves lives. At the end of the day, this case isn't just about crime and justice. It's about a little boy who will grow up without his mother. Mishaela's son will never get to hug her again. He'll never hear her voice or feel her love in person. His whole life has been changed because one man couldn't accept that a relationship was over. That's the real cost of domestic violence. If this case moved you, if you learned something, if you think someone needs to hear this story, share this video. Hit that like button, subscribe, and turn on notifications so you never miss a case. And let me know what you think. What should happen to Keith Roberts? Do you believe workplaces should be held responsible when they don't have proper security? Drop your thoughts in the comments. Mishaela Burnham was 29 years old. She was a nurse, a mother, a daughter, a granddaughter. She deserved to feel safe at work. She deserved to watch her son grow up, remember her name. For more cases like this, check out the video on your screen right now.